You are now listening to the Going North podcast, where you'll receive tips and techniques to advance yourself. I'm your host, Dom Brightman, and every week we're going to be hearing from an author who's going to share their expertise to help you charge forward in life. On a quick side note, be sure to check out Going North the book. It's available in ebook, audio, as well as paperback form for those who love to read a traditional book. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, we have, you guessed it, another author, but not just any author. This wonderful author right here is a specialist in EFT. And you guys are probably wondering, what the heck is EFT? And I'm actually still pretty new to this myself, and it's talking about emotional freedom techniques. And to talk about this and help you advance yourself by finding the missing pieces in your abundance, we have none other than the holistic Dr. Phil himself, Mr. Dr. Phil Mountrose. How are you today, sir?
Great, Tom. Thanks to be with you. Feel like I'm headed north for some reason.
That's a good sign indeed. That's actually a great sign indeed.
Good. We're going in the right direction then.
That's right, because if we had left, who knows what will happen.
Right.
So just gave, though, we're on a short little glimpse, a needle, per se, into the wonderful life of Dr. Phil, mine filling in the gaps where I may have missed some fillings.
Oh, yes. Well, this is sort of my past life review. My life is going by in a flash, and I'm going to narrate it, encapsulate it here to share it in a way that I think people will find interesting, of where I started decades ago. Even Dom, going way back in junior high school, I started realizing that there was more to life than just kind of fitting in with the in-group or being in the out-group. And there was a lot of actually resentment and things that people go through in junior high and high school and growing up, and that's part of the story and the karma that we all go through in our own way, of course. For me, though, by the time I finished college, I became very intensely interested in spiritual growth, enlightenment, finding more. I knew there must be more to life. And at that time, which was back in the olden days, there wasn't as much available as there is today for people through the internet and finding different alternative ways and a lot of information. So for me, it was studying Buddhism and psychology and going to Japanese tea ceremonies. And I went to Naropa Institute. It's a kind of a alternative school in Boulder, Colorado. It's still there. Did everything, and I ran into what's called a Gurdjieff-Ouspensky group. These philosophers who lived in the early 1900s and had formed organizations had been formed around them. When I joined, I said, this must be a way. This sort of seems. And although it got into a group which I was wary of and had its limitations, I learned a lot about consciousness and being aware of my soul and being aware of myself on a deeper level. And a lot that I learned there 3 decades ago plus, I have integrated into my life and taught and written about. Very valuable. However, and I met my wife there, my wonderful wife and partners, who I've been married for 30 years, Jane. However, what I found, Dom, was that even though there was this very intense quest by everyone for, quote, enlightenment or more consciousness or more awareness, more growth, in this particular group, it was all about what they called self-remembering or activating or being aware of yourself, which is good, and that's great. But there wasn't the clearing part. There wasn't a clearing the obstacles in the emotional baggage, so people would not express negative emotions. It was sort of part of the philosophy there. So people became very volcanic and inhibited. They'd be sitting in pins and needles. So that really didn't work over time. That was a big weakness. When we left the group years later, Jane and I, my wife and I, we went looking for other things, and we realized the healing element is a key element in spiritual growth for most people. It's a lot, and they do it in different ways. And that took us into studying hypnotherapy. We met some people who were very powerful in teaching us about soul awareness and soul healing and guidance. And we started having personal sessions and teaching that on the side. Meanwhile, Jane was an architect by profession, and I became a school teacher. That evolved, though, into this part-time business, which is kind of what we recommend, into a full-time business when we became more successful through our individual and our trainings and our groups. And then we started publishing things as part of it. And that's what we do today in Wonderful Life in Central Coast, California. We teach holistic coaching and healing and EFT, the tapping technique, which is very good for clearing blocks of all sorts, emotional blocks, and personal transformation. And we've written many books and manuals. Our newest one is The Ultimate Paradigm Shift. So that's a 2-minute capsule. My life flashed by in 2 minutes or however long that took, and there's a snapshot for you.
A beautiful snapshot indeed. I like you mentioned earlier about the healing piece and spiritual growth, because I feel like that's kind of like a big piece that leads to that, which is amazing, because it's amazing how much pain folks usually go through, and sometimes that they just leave dormant within them, almost volcanic, like you mentioned earlier, and it can just erupt randomly.
Repressed. Yeah, because we're not taught, especially in this country, we're not taught how to deal with it, how to allow it, how to express it appropriately, how to transform it, all those kind of things we're not taught, so it's kind of like the hot potato. I don't know what to do with it, Get rid of it. And, some things are more socially acceptable, anger for men and sadness for women and so forth, but we all have the full range of emotions. That's part of who we are, and we need to connect with them and explore the parts that are blocks in terms of the emotions and the beliefs connected with them.
Yes, true indeed. And you mentioned when you got the start in Buddhism, so with all of that experience, and yes, and congrats for 30 years of being married to Jane, by the way. Congrats.
You bet. Thank you.
So with all of that, what led to the latest book with The Ultimate Paradigm Shift with EFT?
Right. The Ultimate Paradigm Shift, that is our most current thinking. We've written a lot on EFT and getting through to your soul and manifestation, all kinds of things. So we wanted to put all of our most recent thoughts and discoveries into a new book, so it's all together. And the idea of shifting the paradigm, the essence of what is a paradigm, that's something people may be wondering. And that's a vision or a view of how you see the world, how you perceive the world. So you have a certain paradigm and you think this is the way the world has to be. And you have set points, and I'll talk a little bit about that. You have just automatic ways of reinforcing that. Now, the ultimate paradigm shift is taking charge of your life, Dom, and becoming a creator of it, becoming the author of your life. What is it you can control? What is it you can't control? How do you use your life instead of getting used by your life? How do you be more than just in survival? How do you turn survival into thrival? So that's just a real brief overview of it. There's a lot in it, obviously, of different ways to create and different ways to go on a journey in the heart of success, a roadmap of how to take that journey of embracing, experiencing that ultimate paradigm shift and becoming a creator of your life.
Beautiful indeed. Be the author of your life. I feel like that's the first time I've ever heard that one.
Good.
That is amazing indeed. Well, with all of your thoughts sometimes even changing, what trials did you have to overcome to really get to where you currently are? Because I'm pretty sure there are some things that may be obsolete when going through the books and everything. Right.
Yeah. Just everyone has obstacles, and that's one of the key qualities to develop is resilience. As you keep going in life, there's going to be more and more setbacks, and not that we like them, but it's part of the challenge, part of us that keeps us on our toes, keeps us learning, of course. And just like everyone, I had kind of my share of it. And remember one of the ones even earlier when I was in my 20s, when I went to UCLA Film School, I was thinking of being a filmmaker at that point. One of the films I made was The Man Who Picked Up All the Garbage in the World, and I played it in front of my peers, which you do at the film school, and it was really kind of met with kind of a deafening response. And I kind of saw it like a part of my ego, a part of myself that I didn't like. I didn't know what to do with it, and it kind of reeled me into depression because I didn't have the help or support. And that's what you do. Sometimes you get kind of hit in the stomach, and just with life or just seeing yourself or not liking yourself. I felt like the garbage myself. I felt like the trash. And so that kind of, I recovered from that after a few months, but it still sort of kind of let me know of certain weaknesses of things to be aware of in myself. Another kind of major experience, and these experiences all become good for learning yourself and helping others, of course, was we, in the real estate, what turned into the bubble in 2006, a while back there, some people may not know of that, we had become pretty successful in different ways, and we decided to invest in the stock, and not in the stock market, in real estate, which if people know the history of that, that was right before it bubbled. In other words, all the money just sort of disappeared. So that sounds like, wow, you probably lost a lot of money, Philip. Unfortunately, it was worse than that financially, and this is part of what we were learning and teaching about manifesting too, because with the banks and the way things turned is we had enough money where we couldn't liquidate unless we wanted to go bankrupt, which we really didn't want to do. So we just had to stay with it, and we had to just kind of give most of our money every month to the banks, and we couldn't. I mean, it felt like being in a debtor's prison. It was a very strange thing, even though the real estate interest and everything went way down like they are today. And if we could have had that, it would have been even totally fine. So anyways, that was something that was like a 10-year ordeal. I mean, imagine, it just depends, just imagine giving 50% of your income to the banks on a bad deal every month for 10 years.
Oh.
So, I mean, it was just kind of like saying, what do I do? What's my faith in humanity? What's my trust? And we know all kinds of mindset tools and all kinds of strategies and so forth, and know things that turned around. And meanwhile, our business was doing well, and we had a wonderful life, and so many things were going well, but this one thing was quite a challenge to get through, and we did finally get through it. Just a couple of years ago, actually fully a year ago. It took a while. And so anyway, you go through these financial setbacks, and it gives you a lot of empathy for other people, because so many people are struggling financially, and how to deal with different situations when you kind of get hit to the bottom. So that was kind of an interesting ordeal. And I learned a lot about manifestation in that. We learned a lot about how to manifest. Do you want me to share a little bit about that?
Oh, yes, please go deeper.
Okay, so here's something that most people don't know. Even we didn't know it too much after studying it for a while. So it may be like, kind of turn up your radios, put down anything that's distracting if you're listening. This is kind of, could save you a lifetime's worth of missing the boat here. You want whatever. You want a better life. If you get a certain point, you start to realize you have a purpose. You realize you're more than a body. You want to do more than to survive. You have a mission. And it changes and evolves. We can talk more about that too. And so you start to put it out there. I want to help the world. I want to help the world with the environment, or with underprivileged children, or bringing more love in the world, or bringing my music or my art into the world. Whatever it is you're doing, and then you say, so I'm going to be a successful musician. I'm going to be a successful environmentalist within a year, right? You write your goal, and it's going to happen. But here's the thing. You don't know how it's going to happen. Now, you can take your next step. You can figure that out, and that might even take you a moment of trust to figure that out. Well, Philip, you're saying I have this lifelong dream to be a holistic coach and healer like you, or an author on personal transformation, but I don't know how to get there. Can you just say in a year I'll be a successful author? Well, that could put a lot of pressure on yourself. You don't know. I mean, what could you do today? Well, you could make some contacts. You could do some writing. You can do some research. You can do a next step. And after you do that step, you don't know when it's going to open up. So it's a kind of a trust thing. So it's taking that next step. Yes, putting it out there, getting clear. And then when you see what's available and what works, that's how you manifest your dreams.
Kind of reminds me of a book title I saw on the shelf a while ago called Write It Down, Make It Happen.
Write it down, make it happen, right. And that's half the story, and that's good and misleading. See, that's the thing. It's almost like a half-truth is almost sometimes worse than a full no truth. In other words, yes, make it happen, take action, take your next step, but make it happen could put a lot of pressure on you. I want to be a successful healer. I want to be a successful coach, and I've done it now for 6 months, Philip. Why isn't it happening? I'm putting, I'm frustrated. So let's look at what you're really doing. Let's say you want to be whatever. You want to be a successful entrepreneur. You want to be a successful artist. And what does that mean? First of all, is that just doing art? Does that mean paid for it? Whatever. And you have to realize how possible some of these things are. I mean, there's not a lot of wealthy poets around, but, maybe you'll do it part-time, and that'll be great, and you'll sustain yourself. But you can take that next step. You can say, that's good. I took that next step. I feel good. Is it going to take you 100 steps to be a successful artist? Whatever that means to you, which will change as you grow and if you're open. Will take you 50 steps. Will take you 1,000 steps. Okay? Well, if it takes you 1,000 steps and that's what you want to do, you do it. I mean, Jane and I, we wanted to be healers and coaches. We were going to do it. I mean, at a certain point, we were going to do it even if we didn't get paid for it. And at first, of course, we didn't get paid for it. But we were going to do what it takes. We loved it. That was what we were going to do. And we had a lot of setbacks and things we had to learn and grow and reinvent ourselves and stay with it.
There you go, and you're absolutely right, because it's like, yeah, write it down, make it happen, but there's the meat in the middle of the sandwich that folks forget. Kind of like the secret thing where they forget about the actual action piece of it.
Exactly. There's the action piece, taking appropriate and inspired action, as we say, and there's the healing piece. That's the piece that most people miss. Remember I talked about my story about activating my spiritual growth and going in the Gurdjieff-Ouspensky group and looking around. But the healing, you can't take the baggage with you and get to that next level. If you have a lot of anger, a lot of fear, resentment, etc., whatever your particular things are, let me give you a quick story. This since it's so fresh, it's one of the ladies who's one of our students who's quite an accomplished teacher, and she's now a coach and an athlete herself. And she came to me, and even though she's actually won tournaments and is very accomplished, and her issue was, I'm resisting exercising. She said, I can't figure out why. Can't figure out why. So again, the point is it's unconscious. We don't know until we address it. We deliberately, intentionally find someone who can help us, probably. And so what it turned out then was she wants to, even though I think she's maybe 50, wants to be actually be an Olympic athlete. I think in the Olympic tennis at a certain age group. I think at a pretty high level. And in her mind, even though she's won a golf tournament in New Jersey and so forth, she felt that she couldn't win. So that's what she discovered in her mind. She couldn't win. So why would she want to exercise and prepare for it? She wasn't aware of that consciously. So once she realized that and realized the things that she could do, the images in her mind, her feelings, everything shifted, and realized she had a lot of endurance, that she could outlast a lot of people, even if they may have had more skills in certain levels. So she felt more confident that she realized she could value herself and draw on certain skills and strengths she had, so it all made sense.
Yeah, you're right indeed. It kind of goes back to the whole motivation thing, and it's all mental, and if you put that block on yourself...
Yeah, I mean, if something is saying, hey, I'm never going to succeed, and I used to have that belief if you think you're never going to succeed, if that's a belief you're holding, and you maybe got that when you were a child and your parents told you that, or they laughed at you in school or whatever it was, and that's very common stuff, and you think that's, it just happened when I was first grade, but you're still acting like a child when you say, why doesn't it work? Because you're still in that childhood consciousness. Until you address that and integrate that and kind of love that part of yourself and bring it into your adulthood, it's still kind of hanging you up there and holding you back. Negative chatter, self-chatter.
Yep. And then the chattering may get a little loud after a while. Then they have their own club, and then you got to silence the whole club.
Right. And it's a step. It's a journey, and then it is a journey. That's the whole thing, is a journey. I mean, it's basically a journey most of the time rather than a destination. But having a destination, I want to be an artist. I want to be a healer. I want to help the environment. I want to help underprivileged children. Whatever it is, your destination or destinations, that's going to help guide you, and it may shift, and how you get there may change many times. But you clear the obstacles. There's going to be stuff that gets in your way. A lot of it's internal, too.
So when it comes to getting rid of the negative chatter, any specific tips that have really just helped you a little bit more than some of the others?
Well, let me go back to just talking about set points, and I'll tie it in with the EFT, the tapping technique. Set points, and a term people may not be familiar with, is something they found in weight loss in the 1980s, researchers. And what that means is people, like with their weight, had a certain a mindset of where they were, what weight they should be, which they would conform to, so their habits and everything would conform to them. even though if you're supposed to be, if your proper weight is 150 pounds, if that would be considered healthy, but in your mind you see or sense yourself at 180, whatever you do, you have to stay at 180 because your mind and your habits are conforming to that, and a lot of it's unconscious. And the other set points are physical set points, like there's certain physical things in our life, like our body temperature and hormones and so forth. There's a healthy range. And the idea is we can get out of alignment even in basic physical things. So you want to shift your set point so the negative chatter, the negative self-talk becomes more positive. And that's a different way of looking at affirmations, which, if you just start saying, I am successful, but you don't feel it, that's not going to do anything. You need the clearing, you need the particular beliefs. Why do you think you're not successful? Because I've tried 10 times and failed. Okay, well, let's work on that. Do we need new strategies? Do we need to take smaller steps? Do we need to break it down differently? And do we need to do some tapping, some emotional addressing of the negative emotions itself? So acknowledge, even though I have fears, even though I've failed before, I can still love myself. I can still accept myself. And you tap some pressure points. And we have that on our website. We have a lot of information on that at the gettingthrough.org/holistic website. Our website, gettingthru.org/holistic, has a lot of resources on how to do that tapping technique. So that can help clear some of the energy. So it opens your energy field up to look and feel differently.
Good stuff indeed. And speaking of resources, I'm pretty sure there are some books that you recommend others to read. I noticed, I believe it was The Science of Getting Rich, right? Or was it The Science of Being Great?
Right, yeah. That was a real big page turner, real big life turner for us, Jane and I. When we read that years ago, we actually kind of created some programs around that. And many people have heard of that, and The Secret derived from The Science of Getting Rich, and it was a book by Wallace Wattles written actually in the 1990s. He wrote another one called The Science of Being Great. And it's a wonderful book. Two of the key ideas, I'll just give you the snapshot again, is thinking in a certain way and acting in a certain way. He talks about thinking in a certain way and acting in a certain way. And that translates to thinking in a way that is more where you want to go instead of where you don't want to go. And to take it further down is he talked about the creative plane versus the competitive plane. And so in our imagination, all of our imaginations right now, listening, you can imagine yourself connecting with everything in the universe, going to this creative plane. If you imagine yourself just being part of everything, which in fact you and I, everyone is, you are part of everything. You're in this creative plane where everything is connected, and there is love and harmony there. And it's what's sometimes called the field of pure potential. So in there, everything is possible, everything is born, and that's a phrase we like to say, anything is possible, and miracles are happening now. And the competitive plane, down on earth, so to speak, is where we're fighting for survival. I'm not talking about good competition, we're bringing out the best in each other, but where we're thinking it's either you or me, and it's a lot of separation and division and fear and hatred. So you go to this more loving place and you start to think like, yes, I can be a healer. Yes, I've always wanted to help the environment or help underprivileged children. Or yes, I always wanted to be this kind of artist and really go further with it. And that's in the creative plane, and it has all the support for you. And then you start to act in a certain way. So you start to, as Wallace Wattles says, act so your life reflects that. So if you discover that, hey, I really do, Philip, want to be a coach and a healer, I like the kind of trainings you do, I really like those for life purpose and holistic life coaching and healing. If that's it, or whatever it is, I want to be this kind of entrepreneur. So start to shape your life, again, one step, not everything. If you try to do everything and be perfect, you're going to fail. One step at a time, be resilient, keep going, stick with it, and your life is conforming to that trajectory. You're on that arc. You're heading in that direction, aren't you? And that's what we call the ultimate paradigm shift in living fully. That's the subtitle of our book, The Ultimate Paradigm Shift, which you can get on Amazon, by the way, is a guidebook for creating the life you were born to live.
That's right indeed. I think it was Jeffrey Gitomer, one of his audio programs, he mentioned how you should live it till you advance.
I like that. Live it until you advance. Yeah, you keep living and embodying it step by step. So after a while, you'll kind of turn around and Rainer Maria Rilke, since we're quoting authors, and this seems to be sort of a literary tinge or fringe. I was an English major. I like that. Ask the questions until one day you live the answers. That's a paraphrase. So, yeah, you keep saying, hey, keep going. I don't know how. You don't know how. No one knows how. Do you know what's going to happen tomorrow? No, you don't. Do you know if you study, whatever you want to do, exactly where it's going to take you? No, you're going to know that it's going to give you more knowledge and tools, and that's the direction you want to go. Do you know exactly what contact or what creation or who's going to help you? And there's a lot of serendipities and unexpected things, and if you stay with it, something good will happen.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. So with all of your amassed knowledge and experience, if you could go back in time and you were 25 in 2018 with all the available technology and the stories and experiences, what advice would you give to yourself?
I think some of the advice I'd give is what I've been sharing today about be resilient, use your challenges, realize you're not perfect. It's going to take time. You need to be patient. You need to do the healing work, the inner work. You need to keep with it. And just look at it in the long term. Give yourself some time and space and enjoy your life and live fully and know it will work out.
Fabulous indeed, fabulous. So, of course, you mentioned your website earlier. Any other places you want to mention to keep in touch with you and all you're doing and where to buy your books?
Let me say a really neat free report and webinar if people are interested in the ultimate paradigm shift and experiencing that and finding out what it is. We have a bonus where there's a chapter in our new book, The Ultimate Paradigm Shift book, which did just come out, by the way. There's a chapter and a whole webinar where Jane and I teach about it. So if you want to get that, I can give the website link, and that's gettingthru.org/holistic/shift-bonus. That was gettingthru.org/holistic/shift-bonus. And there's a free chapter and webinar on the ultimate paradigm shift there.
Sweet.
Thanks a bunch for your listening ears on the Going North podcast. I hope you really, really enjoyed that episode. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family, especially those who love podcasts and love listening to some inspiration and motivation.